Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's podcast episode, College Financial Preps Preparing for College podcast. So happy today to have Jennifer Ginder join us, and she is with Everyday Writing Coach. So this is going to be a great subject for everybody who's preparing for college. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you so much for having me, Vicki. It's a pleasure to be here.
You're very, very welcome. Love this topic, one that we probably don't discuss often enough, but the writing part of getting into college, the essays. Tell us, how did you even get into this work? Tell us a little bit about your background, please.
It's funny. It kind of just happened because I realized, oh wow, people actually would look for this kind of help and secure a coach in this way for the essay writing process. I have my own daughters with whom I've always worked on essays and writing and research over the years. And now they're both college age. And it just seemed to be kind of a logical progression because I found myself even helping their friends and, that kind of thing with just the regular everyday school writing. And so I did a little bit of research. My background is I've had a number of jobs in the past. I've worked I'm a lawyer by training, not practicing at this point, but I worked in government
relations. A lot
relations.
of writing with law school.
Well, exactly. I was going to say I've worked in government relations after my law school and kind of government policy. And then I kind of cross-trained into corporate communications at the company I was at. It required less travel. And with two little children and my husband in sales, we needed to find a compromise. And it was a really lucky one for me because I learned how to do that kind of writing and communicating, both among employees for that audience and also working with C-suite, executives. And I worked in environmental regulations, a bunch of different things. And what I found the common thread to be was that I loved the writing. And I loved all kinds, from fiction, but really it became writing effectively just has kind of become my passion. If you can write it in fewer words and get your point across, I always want to do that. Just hone things. Precision was always really important to me. So not only would my colleagues come to me to help them with spelling and just general editing, I also got to do a lot of good messaging for this business. And I've been doing that from a consulting standpoint since then. And I was looking at what I could do sort of as a next phase in my career with kids growing up and everything. And I realized, why am I looking so hard? Why don't I just look at what's right in front of me, what I do every day? I help friends who are professionals with the work that they do. I helped our minister a couple weeks ago in a paper he was writing. So it's just a lot of fun for me because it's an easy way to see your own results, but also it's kind of a thrill to see a student or, a friend get that magic moment, light bulb moment where they realize, wow, I'm actually pretty good at this. And I can actually be in charge of what I'm trying to say. And they get the confidence and they realize this is not as hard as I thought. And they typically will end up with something they're really proud of. So I kind of went down that path and researched what was out there, what might be missing. And I think my sweet spot is working with people who may not want to spend the thousands of dollars to have a coach through the entire application process, although I definitely offer something soup to nuts for students who really want that kind of thing. The kids who maybe didn't even realize they needed help, and all of a sudden they find themselves, what am I doing? And they're not that familiar with the process. And so, it's just a lot of fun to be able to help in that way.
So for everybody here that's preparing for college, not in college yet, they may not even know about like what's necessary for the essays, or are the essays even important? Can you talk to that and let everybody know your thoughts on, the essays and where they fit in with the whole college application process?
Sure, okay, absolutely.
And everybody, because this is, because I work from home, I have to tell you, my office door is outside and my dog is like somewhere out there and passing by the door, I'm just going to get her and be right back.
Absolutely. Well, I'd be happy to. I think students who are maybe in their junior year, just finishing up their junior year, a lot of times they don't really know what they're getting into. Some of them have a college skills class, so they have an idea and they've been working on their college application. And others just have no clue because it hasn't hit them yet. They don't know what's going on and they're just starting the process. So every college application really requires a personal statement or college essay. And whether your college application or the college you're applying to uses a common application or a coalition application as their way of having the student apply, either way, they ask for a very similar essay. And really, it's just the college's opportunity to see what the student's about and to really hear the voice of the student, because every other place in the college application is very, it's very rote. You have your list of activities, you have your transcript from school, you have the famous ACT or SAT evaluation and scores. And that's a big part of it. But along with that, you have the...
Mm-hmm. Jennifer, let me stop you. So everybody knows that a lot of the schools have been going test optional. So while the scores may be becoming less important, are the essays becoming more important now?
Yeah, that could definitely be a good argument. That really it's the thing that can differentiate a student. And what I like to say is that it's such an opportunity. Don't dismiss this as just paperwork, because it's such an opportunity to distinguish yourself, and sort of explain to them using your unique voice what you bring to the table at college. And just some basics. The essay is 650 words is your limit, which is roughly a page and a half, of writing. It's not that big of a deal. And in fact, that's sometimes what challenges students is, how do I get my ideas into that small of a space? But it's really doable. And each of those, whether you do the Common app or the Coalition app, you get lots of prompts. They offer you lots of questions you can respond to in your essay. And if you don't like them, you get to just make your own. So it's really, really open-ended. And so I encourage people just to really think about what it is they want to get across, and then figure out a prompt that fits it, basically. So, okay. And it goes with the overall application. Once you have it written, then you just kind of import it into your college application. And just like everything else on that app, they replicate according to whatever college you apply to. I guess a few colleges want you to go specifically to their site and write something specific to that university. But for the most part, it's something that you can use for all of your college applications.
So when you're talking about specific for universities, are you talking about the supplemental essays, or can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, that is true. Like I was saying, that the regular kind of personal statement, which everybody thinks of as their college essay, that's pretty much what you can count on being the same for all of your applications. But yes, the colleges often will ask short answer questions where your answer really is a short, like 300 word or 200 word essay. Or they'll sometimes for honors programs, and then later for scholarship opportunities, you're going to be asked questions that you're going to want to really spend some time preparing for. And some of them might be as long as your personal statement essay, and then others are going to be half that size. So, once you kind of develop the muscles through this process, students realize that they're getting pretty good at cranking out, essays in response to any number of questions. And a lot of times you can repurpose what it is you're writing to fit the specific questions. The big thing is make sure you always proofread so that you don't make that huge mistake of sending the wrong essay to the wrong college. That's never a good thing.
No, definitely not. So what do you think is the most important part of like the whole writing process?
I would say, kind of from a 2,000-mile up viewpoint, I would say the most important thing is organization. Kind of with a big O and a little o, meaning you want your essay to be organized before you turn it in, from a proofreading and typo sort of thing. But when you're looking, the bigger picture is organize your process. The biggest secret to success with an essay is giving yourself the luxury of having time. You just want to get a game plan together and figure out, how much time do I want to give this? What are my goals? Do I have some mini goals? Do I want to give this a week to start and finish? Do I want to, begin this and then set it aside for a few weeks and come back to it? You can do it a lot of ways, but try to know what it is you're going for. What should your schedule be? And then in terms of the writing, my most important part of this process is, and I have 5 phases that I like to talk about, but it's really the creating a roadmap for your essay. You can call it an outline, a roadmap, a brainstorm. Just, write as much down as you can ahead of time so that when you actually come to drafting your essay, it's pretty easy. Because if your thoughts are organized, and this goes with all writing, if your thoughts are organized, then your writing will be too. And you'll be sure to be effective and get your point across. So
fabulous. Yes. Yeah. So what's going to make, my essay stand out from the next person? I'm the one that wants to be admitted to the school. I don't, what do I need to do to stand out?
Right. Absolutely. I think again, getting back to your uniqueness, I think, and as a part of organizing and planning for this, a really important piece is brainstorming about what those characteristics are about you that make you yourself. Very few people take the time to reflect like this about their own selves. But if you give yourself a little time and, I don't know, turn on some nice music, be relaxed, no stress, but just kind of jot down on a piece of paper, what are things about me that, people would say, how would people describe me? What is it that makes me kind of different? What are the characteristics and I have a few little checklists and exercises that I sometimes give clients to help them prompt their thinking. But what are the things that I really think make me different, even unusual? And then figure out how, of those, what is it I want to get across? And I think when you start with those ideas, then you're going to be sure to be able to use your unique voice and, write like you would talk and explain to them, here's who I am, basically. So I think being unique and having your own voice come through is the most important thing to make an essay stand out. I also think doing something uncommon in your essay, even the most cliche topics. And I definitely try to counsel away from doing the very cliche topics.
Like what?
I don't want to ever insult anybody because these still work for essays. But, third year in a row, I got cut from the tennis team and I made it through, and here's why. So I would say that's probably, that kind of thing is used a lot. And sometimes people reading your essays are going to kind of roll their eyes and say, I've totally seen this before. But if you're going to use that topic because it's really, really important to you, and it's the one thing that you think can help you to show who you really are, then try to go about it in an uncommon way. Tell your story in an uncommon way. Use a format that isn't your traditional narrative format. Use dialogue. Try to make it quirky somehow, so just make it uncommon. So vulnerability and being uncommon with how, and it could even be the way you write, and then making sure it sounds like you when you're done and as you're doing it. Those are the things that I think really, and I've been told from admissions people, those are the things that, make an essay stand out. And then also, of course, just being careful to take the time when you're done to make sure it makes sense, to make sure you do not have silly typos, because we all make them, misspellings, make sure somebody else, at least one other person, reads it, those kinds of things. Don't shoot yourself in the foot by messing up on that. So
when you speak with admissions people, have they indicated how important the essay is to you? Like, is it really important? Is it not so much so? What's your feeling on that?
Well, they all have said it's very important. It's, people do wonder, do they even read it? Or, they have to focus so much more on the academics. And sometimes people even are so sure that they're going to get in that they don't think it's going to matter how their essay looks. And I would just counsel them to, think twice about that, because the things that the counselors, the admissions folks have said is that they read the essays, but they do have a million essays to read. So again, how can yours kind of stand out? And then when all things are equal, all other things being equal, with some really great candidates for, not a lot of spots at the college, for example, that's when it really falls into how do these essays compare? If there's so many kids who have great activities and who have great grades and 35s on the ACT, and so then what do you do? And because most schools don't have interviews for your regular admission, a lot do, but because most kids aren't going to have the opportunity to have an interview in person, this is kind of like their interview. And so that's how, especially during COVID, that was definitely the case. Obviously, that's all they could, really count on to try to get to know the kid. So yes, they're important.
Okay. Yeah. And I would definitely think so. As I said earlier, especially with, standardized testing not being as important as it once was, I would think the schools have to consider all of the other pieces of the application more so.
Right. Absolutely. It's worth taking time to do your very best work.
Definitely. So if a student wanted to work with a writing coach, what do you suggest? Like how to get the most out of the relationship? How to get the best essay? What should the student, I guess, and the parent know going in?
Right. I think it's definitely, since I'm a writing coach, I definitely think it's worthwhile to use one and to work with one. But also, having just gone through this process with my own kids, I think a good way to work with a writing coach is to have an initial discussion and meet with that writing coach on expectations and what this process looks like, so that you kind of get the main points of what you're getting into, what timeframes you're looking at. And like with me, I offer little exercises to brainstorm ideas, and do that, and then step away and do those things on your own. And because me sitting next to you, honestly, isn't really going to be, you're not going to get the biggest bang for your buck. I can do that all day long. But I think, sitting alone or with a group of friends or your family, kind of brainstorming and just taking time to reflect and figure out your goals and timeframes, that's good to do on your own. And then I think probably the most helpful part is just the back and forth revision and rewrite process. And just kind of, I used to call this in music when I was learning, I used to play the violin. And so when you're learning music, you just kind of woodshed and you just work on it until you get something that you can put together that actually sounds good. And that's very similar to this writing process. So come up with a draft or a couple of drafts, and then get together with the coach and see, I'm probably cutting myself out of hours and hours of work. And that's true, because sometimes it's nice to have someone just walk through the whole process with you, because they have no idea what it looks like. But once the writing starts, I think it's really valuable. And this is where a lot of the work I do comes in. It's just send me a draft. We work on the, I basically put together an analysis of what is it I love? What do I think you could do to even improve this more? big picture. And then I go through and I just make notes throughout and just ask questions and, give them an opportunity to look at this maybe a little more critically than they might have on their own. And just to give some of those reactions. And then we go back and forth. And it's really just a constructive feedback. Oh, how does this look? What are some questions? Because it's got to be the student who's writing this is. No coach is going to write this. And not only is it not okay to do that, it's just, it wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't be that person's feelings and voice. But really, the process is a lot about just asking questions and pulling that person out and pulling out what it is they think they want to get at and challenging the student a little bit. Are you sure you want to do this? Or what did you mean with this? So just that very almost getting into the weeds of the writing and going back and forth until the student has something that they're happy with. And a lot of times with me, we'll meet in person or on Zoom, but the bulk of the time is just email, write out, take a picture of my scribbles, send an analysis memo back and forth, and then just going back and forth over a couple of weeks. And so that seems to be what my clients have told me is the most helpful part. So I hope that's responsive to your question.
Definitely. No, and one last thing before we wrap up today. I have to ask this question, is college financial prep, we're always focused on money. The scholarship essays, is the process any different? Is it similar? I mean, I help people with locating the scholarships, but I don't help with writing the essays. So, that's where someone, like yourself would come in. So is that process similar for writing the essays?
Absolutely. I think, I'm glad you brought that up because it's so important. And it's my understanding, there's really a lot out there. You just need someone like you to help find it.
Right.
And sometimes those questions on scholarship essays are pretty general, and sometimes they're really specific. So in some ways, I think it's a little easier in the student, especially after having developed their essay already. I think that they're able to tailor what it is they're writing a lot more specifically to the question being asked. I think the student has an opportunity when it's a scholarship or to get into an honors program that then offers a scholarship. I think it's worth the student's time I am so sorry. That's my dog. Excuse me, just a second.
It's all good. We all have dogs.
I'm working from home too. It is what it is. Thank you. But you get an opportunity then when you're the student to do a little research. If it's a university saying, what is it about this honors program that you love and that you see yourself doing? You want to research and you want to try to pull out specific examples of what it is about that program at the school, maybe even the professor that you admire or the reading that you've done of that professor's work or about the program. Show them that you've done some homework and that it's very worth it to you to receive the scholarship or to get into this program. And that you're not this isn't just one of 17 scholarships you're trying to apply to, even if it is. They need to know that you care and that you're somebody who's going to do your homework and you'll work hard and that you can pull that through your essay so that they know that about you. But yeah, I think it's the same kind of principles guide that process as well. They just take less time.
Okay, excellent. I'm so happy that you were with us today, Jennifer. Can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Absolutely. Thank you. My website is at everydaywritingcoach.com, one word. And then you can also just send me an email at jen@everydaywritingcoach.com and I will get back to you. And I always offer a complimentary consultation so that we can talk about what you or what your student is looking for. And then we can just set up a game plan from there.
Wonderful. So glad that you were here today. You're welcome. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today on this episode of College Financial Preps Preparing for College podcast. Take care, everyone.